Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Sulentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. As always, thank you for listening. We really appreciate your time. Our guests are Wichita State softball assistant coach Easton Herring and senior third baseman Krystin Nelson. The Shockers are about 3 weeks into spring practice, so we're going to get you ready for the openers. Wichita State opens the season on February 7th versus Northern Illinois in Phoenix, Arizona. They will also play Grand Canyon, which is the host school, Colgate and Montana over that weekend. Easton is in his second season as a softball assistant. He also worked for the Wichita State baseball staff previously. Krystin is from LaPorte, Texas. She's a three-year starter at third base. Last season, she hit .311, .403 in conference play. She had 9 doubles, and one of my favorite stats that sometimes gets overlooked, she walked more times than she struck out. She was an All-American Scholar athlete and a member of the AAC's All-Academic Team in 2024. So, Krystin, take us through that feeling when you're thinking about the first game. You're getting ready, you're tying your shoes, you're putting on your visor, you're getting ready to take infield. What's that feeling like for a softball player?
I think the first game is also, often one of the games that gets overlooked just because, it's the beginning of the season. But I think the first game of every year that I've played, I'm never less nervous. I'm always the most nervous the first game because just you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea how the season's going to turn out. And it's just, obviously, it's a new team every year. So you have no idea what it's going to be like. So you have the butterflies in your stomach, your hands are shaking, and honestly, nothing's really going through your mind except for this is the first game. This starts the whole season. And I think especially this year is one I'm not really prepared for just because it's my last first, just because it's my senior year. So I think that's what's going to hit hard this year.
Do you have strategies for dealing with nerves?
Yeah, so we actually attend our psychologist here, Miss Malley. We go to her once a week. We try to go to her once a week, and she gives us a lot of strategies, and we practice the deep breaths and practicing our breathing and finding something outside of softball to kind of calm us down. So I think that's what's really helped me a lot.
Mally Hall is who you're referring to, one
Yes.
of the sports psychologists,
Mm-hmm.
sports mental health people that Wichita State has invested some in. Definitely, do the nerves go away after that first ground ball? It's
usually kind of once you get through the anthem and everything, and once you take the field and you're getting your ground balls from your first baseman, that's when you kind of settle in.
Easton, the Shockers have been practicing about 3 weeks or so. Take us through the routine. What are you building up and to before that first game?
Yeah, we haven't had an outdoor practice yet. Hopefully today we can get outside and kind of move around, do that type of stuff. But yeah, we got this week and then probably 3 or 4 more days until we head off to Phoenix. But we try to start prepping for pitchers. I know Coach E does a really good job with that. I'll look at the defense type of stuff. Do their offenses have slappers, hitters? Do they like to bunt a lot? Do they run? So we just try to make sure our girls are prepared for anything and everything.
Will there be more scouting, more video preparation for these opponents, just because you have so much more time as opposed to what you might have in a month? How does that work?
Yeah, and we have a quick turnaround from here to Clearwater, or from our first weekend to go to Clearwater. So softball, you play 4 or 5 games in a weekend. Baseball, it's probably 3, and you're playing the same opponent usually. In baseball, I think we play four different teams the first weekend, and then we turn around and play 4 more teams. So you're kind of prepping for everybody, and it makes things a little difficult at times, just from a scouting perspective. I know Coach O's had to watch 15 hitters from one team and then turn around and watch another 15 hitters, and Coach E now with pitching staffs and prepping for them, they're adding more pitchers to each staff. So it's not usually a 1 or 2 pitcher staff. It's more of 5 to 7. So going through and breaking down each one of the arms and prepping for them, I know that can be a little tough as well.
Kristen, one of the team building things, I think Kristi Bredbenner always does some interesting stuff. You've read books in the past. There was one year they did a project about dominant college teams in different sports. Soccer Challenge, describe that. It's a year-round thing, that the competition that the team takes place in. Describe that for us.
Yeah, so we've done Soccer Challenge all 4 years I've been here, and it's kind of where, so we have 3 coaches. This year it was Coach Easton, Coach E, and Coach O. They all like draft teams of the girls on the team, obviously, and there's like 6 to 7 players on each team, and we just complete challenges throughout the year of like, we do pickleball, and like whoever, like you have a team of 2 with pickleball, but it's within your team of 7. So whoever wins that like gets the most points, and it like all of those points goes towards like rewards, I guess. Like we get stuff from Lululemon, we get bags. Some of them are like dinner at Coach B's house, which is everyone's favorite.
Why is that everyone's favorite?
She just cooks so good.
Great cook. What's her specialty? What does she roll out?
Probably her chicken and steak is her best.
Okay.
And she makes this like potato casserole thing. It's so good. But yeah, like we have pickleball, we do like weight room challenges. Sometimes we'll do like live situations at practice, and like the teams for that will be within your Soccer Challenge teams. So you'll get teams for that of like who scores the most, who gets the most outs, and things like that.
Who is the best pickleball player on this team?
Taylor. She's so good.
Really?
And her mom.
Taylor Slotchek?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Her and Cece. So Cece's our GA this year, and so she wasn't allowed to play because they win all the time.
Okay, so they're very good at that. My next question was going to be who wins the weight room contest. I was going to guess it was Taylor, just based on
between Carol and Taylor.
Carol Talent and Taylor Slotchek.
Can't beat them.
Okay, very good. Do those things help?
I think it just it's just a reminder to like just keep things fun. Like we are here for a reason, but it is a good reminder to just like, softball is a game. Like we chose to play this game for fun. Like it's not like, it is a job. It is our job to get things done and win and prove who we are, but it also like, it is just a game. So I think just keeping things like lighthearted and just keeping it fun.
So Easton, you mentioned not practicing outside to this point. What's it like practicing indoors while you're watching the softball indoor facility arise next door to Wilkins Stadium?
Yeah, we've done a lot of individual stations, breakdowns, infield outfield split, catchers catching bullpens, and then we're fortunate enough to have the baseball indoor to where we can do a full field scrimmage. Live arms. It's good for our hitters to see live ABs, but the indoor facility that we're getting built down our left field line is going to be huge. It's a game changer, especially from the recruiting piece too. It's going to be one of the nicest facilities, in the Midwest.
Yeah, you're really good about posting updates on Twitter, taking pictures of steel beams arising, rebar coming out, all that fun construction stuff. Does that kind of thing resonate with recruits?
Absolutely. I always try to tell kids, anytime I work at camp, off campus or at a tournament, if we can get kids on campus, we probably got a pretty good shot at them, just because, how revamped our campus is, with the innovation side of campus and, our facilities and what we have to offer and that type of stuff too. So it's huge. Social media is such a big part of recruiting nowadays. That's the reason why I have Twitter. It's a huge recruiting tool. Kids messaging you, and tagging you in videos and that type of stuff. You may not know about a kid and they tag you in a video and you're like, okay, we got to go watch this kid, over the summer and the fall. And, things travel fast on the internet too. So
Kristen, you would have grown up in this era of social media. How much did you use social media during your recruiting process?
Actually, during recruiting, I feel like we were kind of the last class to not use it that heavy. Like, you see kids now, I say kids, they're the same age, but, like, you see players now, like, they're posting videos of them practicing on Twitter and Instagram. Like, I never did that. And those were just things like coaches were coming to you face to face. They're talking to you. They're watching you play, and you're going to their schools to camps. And like I didn't utilize social media that much, and I think a lot of people in my class can say the same thing. But yeah, I think we were the last class that we weren't very like social media heavy.
I'd probably say COVID really spiked that. You know, you have, I think your 2024 class, the kids who are sophomores this year were the big, COVID kids. I guess they would be the 23 class.
So they were kids who, coach can't come and see me. I'm not playing
Correct.
games. The best thing I can do is send them pictures or video from a batting cage.
Correct.
Yeah, because even at that point, like, apps were created so that you could upload videos. Like, there's apps like Huddle that you can upload videos of you playing and practicing and just, like, getting extra work in. And you upload those videos, and coaches can access that. Where, like, we never had that.
So I do seem to see this a lot. It seems like softball and baseball, which I guess are sports very conducive to video. You can get in a batting cage, you can get on, you can throw off a mound and take videos of that. What's as a coach, how are you evaluating that from the standpoint? Well, a lot of people can look good in a batting cage. I need to find out if they can do it, in April against live pitching. What's the process? What's the next step then?
Yeah, I mean, you could put your best 5 swings you had on the tee or on the machine or in game on Twitter, and but I think us as a coaching staff, we want to see the other things, the intangibles, how you get on and off the field, how you carry yourself, how you deal with failure, that type of stuff. So I feel like identifying talent, it's easy. It's easy to see the kids who are really good and very high level. I think it's a little bit tougher to find the diamonds in the rough, and I think that's kind of our bread and butter. Finding those kids that really work hard and want to develop and want to get better, and then they come here and they thrive like Krystin, Lauren Lucas and Sydney McKinney and those types of stuff. Even I would even put my sister in there.
Your sister Neely, who was
yes.
an outstanding first baseman for the Shockers.
Absolutely. So I think just finding those kids that have that want to of getting better every day and developing, and our coaching staff, I think you can put us up against anybody in the country. I feel like we get the most out of everybody, which is huge.
So Krystin, I think coaches would describe you as the best defensive third baseman in the conference. Take us through your evolution about working on defensive skills, taking pride in that part of the game.
I think you'll hear a lot of times that a lot of players think offense is like the fun side of the ball, but I have always thought the opposite. I've always thought that defense has always been my bread and butter, just because I was probably 12 when I really started, like 10, 12, when I really started taking softball seriously, and like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And even from coaches from that age, they were like the basics are going to be like, you have to have them and you have to focus on those. So even like to this day, I'm just doing every days, and you focus on getting your fingertips back, working through the ball. Like, you hear that all the time, but like some players, those aren't the things you work on just because you should be able to do it. Well, I just think the basics are kind of what I guess are my bread and butter, and defense is my fun.
She's probably just saying that because I'm in here. I'm sure if Coach E was in here, she'd be saying that offense was her favorite, but it's okay. We get it now.
Right, and so to be clear, Easton works a lot with the infield on the defense. That's kind of one of his main areas of responsibility. Coach E, who we've referred to a couple times, Elizabeth Economan, famous for her love of hitting.
Absolutely, and it's funny with her. I would always probably enjoy us to do a little bit more defense, and she loves doing her offense stuff. But when we have camp, she'll introduce herself and say go offense, and I'll obviously rebuttal back and introduce myself and say go defense. So it's kind of a fun banter back and forth between us two. But obviously you got to score runs to win games, and I think playing defense is important too. I love to watch the ESPN plays and that type of stuff, and I also like to see the ball fly out of the yard. So
And the other assistant coach we've mentioned a couple times, Coach Courtney Oliver Elkins, just to familiarize people with that. Krystin, how did you fall in love with softball? How did that become your game?
Well, both my parents played, so it was kind of a have to. You have to love it. Both my older brothers played, so I just grew up at the baseball fields, grew up at the softball fields. It's just was meant to be.
So now you're a senior. Take us through leadership duties, leadership skills, being that you're one of the most experienced people on this team.
I think leadership a lot of times kind of just comes naturally to people, and obviously your older girls on the team have had the most experience, so you kind of just look up to them. But I feel like even from freshman year, like people viewed me as a leader on this team just because, I mean, sometimes you just have to take charge even if you are the 18-year-old playing with girls who are 21 and 22. Like, it's kind of just, I don't know, it's just a thing, I guess. Like,
comes natural for Krystin. I feel like, not only is she a vocal leader in the infield, but I feel like she leads by example too. Being able to, be the first one there or do extra and, I mean, it also starts in the weight room too. And I think the leadership piece from this whole senior class even, they lead by example. They're the ones that are working hard and doing all the things that need to be done, in order for us to be successful.
So, Krystin, let's say Wichita State's in a bad spot, an inning, couple runners on, pitcher's struggling a little bit. What is your go-to way to kind of calm things? And I heard Sidney McKinney for years say you go to the mound and you say, we got your back, throw the pitch, we'll field it. What's your tactic when you're in that kind of a nerve-wracking situation?
I'm definitely one to call time, like, especially if I see my pitcher struggling, like, I'm usually the one that kind of takes charge in that instance, and I'll just, like, my thing is I usually try and kind of crack a joke. Like, I'm going to walk up and I'm going to make sure if obviously in that situation you're nervous, like you're tight, but like you can't walk to the mound and show your pitcher that. Like you have to put on a face for not only yourself and your team, but for your pitcher too, because your pitcher needs that. Like you have to walk up to the mound confident and be like, we got you. Like you got to understand we got your back, but you got to have ours too. And so just walking up there, like kind of, I always like to walk out there. I'm not going to look nervous. I'm going to put a smile on my face and like make things again lighthearted, like trying to make it a game, trying to make it fun, cracking jokes with the pitcher and the catcher, and like, because when your pitcher's struggling, so is your catcher. And I feel like that's what a lot of people don't understand is that your pitcher and the catcher, they're their own team too. And so just trying to be a leader on the field, and when you walk out there, just be lighthearted, make it fun, and just crack a joke. And that's kind of my thing to do is make things fun.
So, Krystin, nice offensive year last year. The coaches loved referring to you as a second leadoff hitter, hitting ninth in the lineup. Hit 311, as I said. Take us through your offensive improvement during your time here.
I think my biggest improvement was honestly my brain. Like, I knew physically I could do it, but it kind of just took Coach B one time to kind of dig into me and be like, because it was at Arkansas, I would think I've had an 0 for 19 year. I've had 0 for 20-something one year. Offense is something I've struggled with usually towards the beginning of the season. But we were at Arkansas, I think it was last year. And she had pulled me for one inning. And obviously, like, I'm getting myself worked up just because I'm an upperclassman and I know I should be playing. Like, I know my ability. Like, I know I can physically do it, but I can't get my thoughts out of the way. And so she pulled me to the end of the dugout and she was like, this is going to be the last time I pull you. Like, I'll never pull you again because we need you defensively for sure. But you have to know you could do it offensively. Like, you're going to play. And I think it just took that of, like, knowing that the coaching staff, like, really believes in me and that I can do it for me to believe in myself. And I think that's when things really took a turn. Like, the next weekend we went to Nebraska, and I got at least, like, 3 hits in every game that whole weekend. So
hotter than a pistol. I'm telling you. And she says 0 for 20. It wasn't a 0 for 20 with 20 strikeouts or rollovers. I mean, she was squaring the ball up, hitting it right at people. It was a loud over 20.
And we're talking about the beginning of last season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and Kristi and you have talked about that story, that moment from Arkansas. That's familiar to me. So it sounds like just a coach expressing confidence in you that really cleared your mind up and allowed you to hit.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly been a hot topic lately is, there's the app TikTok of, there's just a trend going around of, people's experience at schools. And I think that's something that, we really need to put out for WSU in general. Coach B really cares about her players as people and not just softball players. She really makes this program a family program. And you'll hear that across every player on this team, that this program is a family. And that's not just us players. It's the coaches. It's the supporting staff, Gretchen. It's everyone. We're just a big family here. And I think that's something that really needs to be put out for this program.
Gretchen Torline, academic advisor. She's gotten a lot of pub on this podcast lately. I don't know if I'm totally comfortable with that, but she has earned it. Easton, we're almost 2 weeks out from the first day. Run us through a likely lineup, possible lineup permutations. We won't hold you to it, but give the fans something to think about as the countdown begins.
Well, obviously we're pumped that Lauren Lucas is back. Positional wise. I think behind the plate, any three of our kiddos behind the plate could go at any time. With Becker Lee, Gabby Scott, and Sophie Johnson. We're young back there, but anybody can go. Whoever's probably got the hot bat is probably going to get their name called at that time. Third base, I'd probably say the person sitting right next to me with Krystin Nelson. Shortstop, I'd probably go with Taylor Slachek. She did a phenomenal job last year coming in unexpectedly. We were playing OSU at the time, and we had a few middle infielders that were down, and we brought in Addie B and Taylor and said, who wants to play short? And Taylor, before we got it, Coach B even got it out of her mouth of who wants to play short, Taylor was like, I'll do it. And sure enough, she stepped in and she did awesome. She didn't put much pressure on herself, made all the routine plays, got after it, had a good attitude about it all, and was awesome. Second base, I'd probably say Sammy Hood. She's a phenomenal elite defender right there. I think she's probably at her best right now. First base, a toss-up against three really good players with Cam Compton, Carroll, and Sid Zenon. It's going to be a battle, and I'm sure whoever ends up not playing first base will probably end up DPing, maybe depending on our outfield situation as well. But center field, I'm not going to go left field, center field, right field, but I would probably say Jody Epperson, our transfer from North Texas, she's a freak athlete, man. Has an absolute bazooka of an arm. And what Coach Horn calls her Mighty Mouse. Just so strong for her size and hits the ball out of the yard. And then we got Ellie Eck, who's also a transfer. I think she was committed to us prior to going to Stanford. I think Coach B mentioned it in the podcast. How can you not turn down a Stanford education? So we totally understand from that point. But she brings a left-handed stick that's, something that we probably wish we had for 4 years. And then Lauren Lucas, our All-American that's coming off of an injury. I think she's going to be a big piece and going to have a huge season this year. And we're excited to have her back and, some freshmen to kind of look out for her. Morgan Lloyd, she's another left-handed bat that's had some really good success, this fall and into the early spring. And then, Mimi Navarro is another one of our transfers, has an elite glove, and she's dealing with a few injuries and stuff like that for herself, but she's going to be back healthy as well when the season gets rolling. So yeah, I mean we got some depth this year, which is awesome.
Krystin, yeah, give us a couple newcomers that fans should keep an eye on. What's been your observation of the class of newcomers?
I honestly think all of them. I think this class of newcomers has been absolutely insane. From our transfers, I think Jody, that's another freak of an athlete. Like, she's just good at everything she does. And then Ellie's the same way. She's just so raw. Like, she's just absolute raw talent. And then Mimi has a freak of a glove. And then all of our freshmen, I think we have a really good freshman class. I think especially Morgan Lloyd, like, you can just tell in the box, she's just, you don't see it in many freshmen where you get in the box and you're just calm. Like, most of the time when you're a freshman, everything is running through your mind when you step in the box. But I feel like when Morgan steps in, it's just, she's going to get a hit. And she hits the ball hard. Mm-hmm. Like, every time she makes contact, it's going to be hit hard. And I think those are people that you really need to keep an eye on.
Easton, 7-person recruiting class for Wichita State. You had 5 of the high schoolers in for a basketball game recently to check out campus. I think people are always fascinated by recruiting, especially these days because so much is changing. Describe the recruiting class.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. We put in a ton of effort, with this recruiting class. We got Cammie Smith, kid from Oklahoma, hits the ball really hard. Another smaller kid, I guess, elite defender. It's funny. My uncle is a head softball coach, head high school softball coach in Oklahoma, and they played Kiefer in a tournament. And my uncle was like, "How do I get this kid out? She's hitting like 650 or 700." And I'm like, You just can't pitch to her. She's elite, man. She's really, really good. So we're excited about Cammie. She's a middle infielder. She'll add some depth to us. Skylar Roger, another Oklahoma kid. Rogers, sorry. Call her Sky. She's a really athletic, long, she can play pretty much any position. I told her parents when they came up the other day that I felt like she grew another 3 or 4 inches. She's about 5'11", 5'10", from the last time I saw her this past summer. And then you add another infielder in there with Kinsey Woody, just an absolute animal. I mean, all these kids in this class can really hit and really go, which makes things really, really exciting for the future. Another one, Mackenzie Rooney, an outfielder, left-handed hitter. She's a Missouri kid, or a Kansas kid, I'm sorry, from the Kansas City area. She can flat out fly, probably one of the faster kids that I've seen. And she just goes and gets it. She'll run into a wall, sacrifice her body for anything. Jenna Edwards was a late pickup for us, another high school kid. She's a pitcher, down ball kid, really good changeup. Is going to bring something a little bit different to our pitching staff, which is great. And then our 2 junior college kids, Michaela Tosh and Trinity Allen. Trinity, I think she hit 25 home runs last year at McLennan. Both of those kids are from McLennan Community College. Something that really excites me as a defense guy, they were both Gold Glove winners, which is really cool and kind of unheard of when you have 2 or 3 Gold Glove kids from the same team. But Chris Berry does a phenomenal job down there at McLennan of developing kids and getting the most out of their kids, which is very similar to what we do here. 7 kids that are going to make a huge impact to what we have going and probably leave a really good legacy by the time they're done.
And McLennan is where CeCe Wong started at before she went to Grand Canyon and then ended up here at Wichita State. Had just, I think she ended up 3rd in the nation in hitting, 2nd or 3rd in the nation in hitting. Just had a great season last year for the Shockers. Krystin, let's wrap it up by using your experience now as as a 4-year college athlete, let's say your high school says, Krystin, come on back. We want you to talk to some of our teams, some of our athletes. What's your advice for a high school athlete who is kind of getting started on, I want to play college athletics?
I feel like I preach this a lot, but just keeping softball fun. I think the game gets really hard when you make it strictly a job. And softball was meant to be a game. It is a game, and that's what games are supposed to be fun. And I think college softball is a completely different game than high school and travel ball. And I feel like that was really hard to accept my freshman year. And I feel like that's when the mental game kind of came into play, where in travel ball, it's just softball. Like, I feel like there was no mental side of it. You're just playing to play and get recruited. But when you get here, like, it finally clicks at some point that this is what you have worked your entire life to do, is play college ball. And I think that's when you really have to play the mental side of things of, this is what I've worked my whole life for. So keep doing the same thing. Keep having fun with it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I feel like that's what's really hard not to do. And I think especially for me, coming off from surgery and coming off from the season I had last year, there's a lot of pressure to perform. But I know what I'm capable of. But the mental side of things is, for me, I have to stay really calm. And, like, I can't overwhelm myself, and I can't get too excited, or I get out of my realm. And one thing for me is I do have to keep the game fun, or I spiral.
Wichita State softball, the Shockers open the season on February 7th. They're in a tournament down in Phoenix, Arizona. They play Northern Illinois. We'll also play Grand Canyon, Colgate, and Montana over the weekend. Assistant coach Easton Herring, third baseman Krystin Nelson, thanks for your time.
Great insight as always. Thanks for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can always find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Martin, left wing to Mike Jones. 8 seconds left. Smithson out to Mike Jones. 25-footer. Good! He got it with 3 seconds left! Mike Jones, from about 25 feet out, hit another long jumper. 2 seconds showing on the clock. That may not be official, but Wichita State leads 66-65. Timeout, Kansas. 2 seconds to go. Wichita State 66, Kansas 65.